At some point in your life, you felt it. That surge of energy, that absolute certainty that this time would be different. This time you would follow through. This time you would not stop. And for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, it felt real. And then it faded. Not slowly, suddenly, and you were left wondering what happened, wondering why you could not just stay motivated, wondering what was wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You just misunderstood what motivation actually is. Most people treat motivation like a fuel tank. They believe if they can just fill it up enough, they will have enough energy to reach their goal. So they watch inspiring videos, they read motivational books, they listen to podcasts that make them feel invincible. And for a brief moment, the tank feels full. But then real life arrives. The alarm goes off. The task is harder than expected. The results are not coming as fast as hoped. And the fuel burns off. Because motivation is not a fuel tank. It is a spark. It can start the engine, but it cannot keep it running. And the people who built remarkable lives did not build them on motivation. They built them on something far more reliable. Here is what decades of research on human behavior tells us. Motivation is an emotional state. And like all emotional states, it is temporary by design. Your brain is not built to sustain any single emotion indefinitely. Not joy, not anger, not fear, and not motivation. What your brain is built for is adaptation. When something feels new and exciting, your brain releases dopamine. That dopamine is what motivation feels like. It is the sensation of anticipating a reward, of imagining a better future, of feeling like change is not just possible, but inevitable. But the moment you start taking action, the novelty begins to fade. The future you are imagining becomes the present you are living. Then the present is always harder and slower and more complicated than the imagined future was. So the dopamine drops, the motivation fades, and most people interpret this as failure, as a sign that they were never really committed. But it is not failure, it is neuroscience. Here's the dangerous lie that motivation culture sells you, that you need to feel motivated to take action, that action should feel inspired, that if it does not feel exciting, you are probably doing the wrong thing, or you are not ready, or the timing is not right. This belief is one of the most productivity-destroying ideas in modern culture, because the truth is exactly the opposite. You do not need to feel motivated to act. You need to act to feel motivated. The research is clear on this. Motivation follows action far more often than action follows motivation. When you sit and wait to feel motivated, you are waiting for a feeling that will not arrive on its own. You are waiting for a spark to appear in an engine that has not been started. The engine has to turn first, and then the spark comes, not before. So if motivation is not the answer, what is? The research points to 3 things that actually sustain long-term behavior change. The first is systems. A system is a structure that makes the right behavior happen automatically, regardless of how you feel that day. When you have a system, you do not need motivation. You need the system to be intact. Your workout is at 6 a.m. because that is when it is scheduled. Not because you feel like going. Not because you are inspired that morning, but because the system says 6 a.m. And systems are far more reliable than feelings. The second is identity. The most powerful driver of sustained behavior is not wanting to do something. It is being someone who does something. A person who is trying to exercise needs motivation every single time. A person who is an athlete does not question whether they will train. That is just what athletes do. When you shift from wanting to being, the behavior stops requiring motivation. It becomes an expression of who you are, which means every time you do it, you are not just completing a task, you are confirming your identity. And identity confirmation is one of the strongest drives in human psychology. The third is environment design. Your environment determines your behavior far more than your motivation does. If your running shoes are by the door, you are more likely to run. If your phone is in another room, you are more likely to focus. If your gym bag is packed and in your car, you are more likely to go to the gym. You are not strong enough to rely on willpower and motivation every day. Nobody is. But you are smart enough to design an environment that makes the right choice easier than the wrong one. And that is what actually works. This does not mean motivation is useless. It means you have been using it wrong. Motivation is not fuel. It is a starting pistol. Use it to begin. Use it to take the first step. Use it to set up the system. Use it to design the environment. Use it to choose the identity. But do not depend on it to keep you going, because it will not. And that is not a weakness. That is a feature. Your brain fades motivation on purpose. Because if you stayed permanently excited about everything, you would never be able to focus. You would never be able to go deep. You would spend your entire life starting things and never finishing anything. The fade is the invitation to commit, to move from excited to disciplined, from inspired to systematic, from motivated to professional. Because professionals do not wait to feel like working. They work because it is Tuesday. The next time motivation fades, and it will fade, do not take it as a sign to stop. Take it as a sign that the real work is beginning, that you have moved past the easy part, the part that feels good, and into the part that actually builds something. Motivation got you started. Now let your system carry you forward. Let your identity remind you who you are. Let your environment make the right choice, the obvious one. That is how remarkable things get built, not in a surge of inspiration, but in the quiet, consistent, unglamorous accumulation of days. Subscribe to Level 1, because every week we explore the psychology behind why humans think, feel, and behave the way they do, and what you can actually do about it. See you in the next one.